fame doesn't end at death, it follows, distorts, and sometimes refuses to let go. Behind the flowers, monuments, and mourning crowds, some of rock music's greatest icons left behind burial wishes that shocked even those closest to them. From secret ashes and unmarked graves to bodies that had to be moved under guard. These final requests reveal a darker truth about legacy, control, and identity. Tonight, we explore the final resting places of rock, legends and the unsettling stories. Hidden beneath them, Jim Morrison, the rock star, who chose silence. Jim Morrison's burial is as haunting and contradictory as his life. When the Doors frontman died in Paris in 1971, the circumstances were already mysterious. What followed was a funeral that felt almost unreal in its quietness. There was no grand procession, no industry presence, and no public farewell. Morrison reportedly wanted no spectacle, no shrine, and no myth built around his death. He was buried quickly in Père Lachaise Cemetery, in a modest grave with minimal identification. For years, there wasn't even a proper headstone, just silence. This decision stood in stark contrast to Morrison's public image as a wild, prophetic, and rebellious rock god. Ironically, his wish for anonymity failed. Over time, his grave became one of the most visited burial sites in the world, surrounded by graffiti, flowers, and constant crowds. The man who wanted to disappear became immortalized against his will. Morrison's burial captures the central paradox of his existence. Someone who lived loudly, HALLENGED, authority relentlessly, and yet ultimately chose to vanish quietly. Jimi Hendrix, a grave surrounded by questions. Jimi Hendrix died at just 27. But the confusion surrounding his legacy truly began after his death. Unlike many artists, Hendrix left behind no clear burial instructions, no documented final wishes, and no plan for how his remains should be handled. This absence of clarity opened the door to years of legal disputes, family conflict, and public speculation. Hendrix's burial site in Seattle has been relocated and redesigned multiple times, each change sparking new rumors among fans and historians. Some believe the grave reflects family power struggles rather than Hendrix's personal identity or values. Despite earning millions and redefining modern guitar music, Hendrix had little control over what happened next. His estate became a battleground, and his resting place turned into a symbol of unresolved ownership rather than peaceful remembrance. Fans visiting his grave often feel a sense of unease at closure. Hendrix's burial stands as a reminder that once an artist is gone, their voice can be replaced by lawyers, contracts, and competing interests. Even legends can lose autonomy after death. Freddie Mercury, a secret taken to the grave. Freddie Mercury's final request may be one of the most shocking in rock history, not because of extravagance, but because of secrecy. After his death in 1991 from AIDS-related complications, Mercury asked that his ashes be hidden forever. No public grave, no memorial site, no confirmation of location. Only a handful of people were trusted with his remains, and they honored his wishes completely. This decision stunned fans around the world. Mercury was one of the most visible, theatrical, and celebrated performers in history, yet in death, he demanded absolute privacy. Many believe this was Mercury's way of reclaiming control after years of intense scrutiny, speculation about his health, and invasion into his personal life. Even decades later, the location of his ashes remains unknown. His silence became his final performance, deliberate, powerful, and untouchable. Freddie Mercury sang to millions, but chose to disappear without a trace. John Lennon, no grave. No idol. John Lennon rejected traditional burial long before his death. When he was assassinated in 1980, Lennon's wishes were clear. No grave, no idolization, no religious symbolism. He was cremated, and his ashes were never placed in a public location. Instead of a tombstone, Yoko Ono encouraged fans to remember Lennon through peace, reflection, and activism. Strawberry Fields in Central Park became an unofficial gathering place, but Lennon himself rests nowhere accessible. This was a radical choice for a man whose image had grown almost mythological. Lennon did not want to be worshipped. He wanted ideas to survive, not monuments. His lack of a grave is not an absence, it is a statement. In death, as in life, Lennon resisted authority, tradition, and expectation. He refused to become a relic. Elvis Presley, the grave that had to be moved. Elvis Presley's burial story reveals the dark side of global super. After his death in 1977, Elvis was initially buried in a public cemetery. Almost immediately, his grave became a security risk. grave robbery attempts, vandalism, and obsessive fan behavior forced the Presley family into an unthinkable decision. Elvis's body had to be moved. He was reinterred at Graceland, his private home, in a location that could be tightly secured. What should have been a final resting place turned into a guarded site monitored constantly. Elvis never asked for this level of protection, but fame followed him even into death. His grave symbolizes the price of being the king. Even in rest, he could not escape the world's obsession. Elvis lived for the public hand, was never allowed to leave it behind. Kurt Cobain, no grave, no closure. Kurt Cobain's death shocked the world, but what followed was just as unsettling. Unlike many rock icons, Cobain left behind no traditional burial site, no grave, no headstone, no place for fans to gather and mourn. After his suicide in 1994, Cobain was cremated, and his ashes were quietly divided. Some were scattered, some were kept privately, and some reportedly placed in deeply personal locations known only to those closest to him. This decision mirrored Cobain's lifelong discomfort with fame and idolization. He rejected the idea of becoming a monument, even in death. Yet the absence of a grave created a strange void. Fans searched for meaning, for a physical space to say goodbye, but found none. Cobain's legacy exists everywhere and nowhere, at once etched into music history, but denied a single point of rest. His final silence was not accidental. It was a continuation of the isolation he felt in life. A generation mourned him, but Kurt Cobain vanished without leaving a place to be found. Janis Joplin, ashes released, not remembered. Janis Joplin lived fast, burned intensely, and refused to follow tradition even in death. After her overdose in 1970, Joplin's final request was simple but shocking. She did not want a grave. She was cremated, and her ashes were scattered into the Pacific Ocean. No tombstone, no memorial site, no permanent marker. For someone whose voice defined raw emotion and vulnerability, this vanishing act felt deliberate. Joplin had long struggled with loneliness, rejection, and the pressure of being misunderstood. In death, she chose freedom over remembrance. Her ashes disappeared into the sea, leaving fans with songs instead of stone. The decision reinforced her identity as an outsider, someone who never truly belonged anywhere. Janis Joplin became immortal through music, but physically, she left nothing behind to hold Brian Jones. Forgotten by the band he created, Brian Jones was a founding member of the Rolling Stones. Yet his burial tells a story of abandonment and erasure. When Jones died in 1969, he was no longer part of the band he helped create. His funeral was small, quiet, and notably absent of most Stones members. Jones was buried in a modest grave, far removed from the global success that followed the band. There were no grand tributes, no lasting memorial funded by the industry that profited from his work. Over time, his grave deteriorated, mirroring how his contribution faded from public memory. Jones' burial wasn't shocking because of extravagance, but because of neglect. It exposed how quickly rock history can move on, leaving its pioneers behind. Brian Jones built the Stones, but when he fell, he was buried almost alone. Sid Vicious, chaos, even after death. Sid Vicious embodied destruction, and his burial reflected the same chaos that defined his life. After dying of a heroin overdose in 1979, his mother attempted to fulfill what she claimed were Sid's final wishes, to be buried alongside Nancy. But complications arose, plans fell apart, and the burial became as unstable as his legacy. Sid was cremated, and parts of his ashes were allegedly scattered, while others were lost or mishandled. There is no clear, permanent resting place. Even in death, Sid Vicious remained untethered. His end was not peaceful, not resolved, and not dignified. It was fragmented, confused, and tragic, just like his life. The punk icon vanished without closure, leaving behind myth instead of memory. Lane Staley, a silent farewell. Lane Staley's burial was marked by silence, privacy, and deep sorrow. After years of isolation and addiction, Staley died alone in 2002, but his funeral was small, intimate, and deliberately kept away from public attention. He was cremated, and his ashes were reportedly scattered near those of his father, honoring a deeply personal family bond. There was no public monument, no grand farewell, no attempt to turn tragedy into spectacle. For fans who grew up with his voice as the sound of pain and honesty, the quiet ending felt devastating. Lane Staley disappeared without a final performance, without closure, and without recognition equal to his influence. His burial reflected the reality of his final years, isolated, private, and heartbreakingly quiet in life. These artists were worshipped, chased, and consumed by the world. In death, many tried to reclaim what fame never allowed them: privacy, silence, and control. Some chose secrecy. Others were denied peace altogether. Their burial stories remind us that legacy isn't just about music. It's about who controls the narrative when the artist no longer can. Long after the applause fades, contracts expire, and crowds disappear. One question remains: did they finally find peace, or did fame follow them forever?